What's going on, YouTube? It's your host, Bruce GNT, and we are here to talk about Starbucks is closing a lot of locations across the U.S., and not just the U.S., Canada as well. I think over 500 locations in total. And usually I don't pay attention to stuff like this, right? But since I'm starting to really look into like the markets and whatnot, really starting to pay attention to how my portfolio is looking, like companies I'm investing in, everything like that, this is interesting because I think a little while ago, Starbucks got a new CEO, and he's talked about restructuring. We're going to go over that later in this video. And usually when CEOs are restructuring, especially when they just come in, normally what they do, they clean house. They make sure that they just shake the whole thing up, because the reason that they're coming in, they're a new CEO, is because things have been going wrong before for a very long time at that. And they're saying, hey, look, I'm here to make money. And not just for me, but the shareholders as well, because that's what their main objective is, to make themselves money and the shareholders, and then as well the other people that work below them within the company. So we're just gonna jump right into this, and then we're gonna talk about it as we go through.
A major shakeup for coffee giant Starbucks, the iconic chain announcing the closure of 400 of its shops nationwide, including several here in the Bay Area. Many workers say they were blindsided by the announcement, and the shuttering of these stores sending a ripple effect through still fragile local economies. KTV's John Krinjak spoke to some regular customers.
At the Starbucks on Solano Avenue in Berkeley, shock from regular customers who walked up Friday to see this sign on the door saying that this location would be closed as of Saturday.
This is a residential area, and it seems like a lot of people stop and visit and meet up with their friends and have coffee.
Several Starbucks across the Bay Area displaying the same signs, including some in San Francisco, Oakland, and this one in Danville.
I am shocked. I had heard nothing about that. I'm just really sad because this is a great place to hang out. It really is the center of town.
Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol saying in a statement, during the review, we identified coffee houses where we're unable to create the physical environment our customers and partners expect, or where we don't see a path to financial performance, and these locations will be closed.
So let's really dissect what he's saying. Essentially what he's saying is that, hey, look, we looked at the physical environment, in other words, the location of our stores, and we're looking at, our customer base along with our partners, so the people that invest in Starbucks, and we're saying, okay, you know what? All these factors taken into account, we're not really making a lot of money. Because I looked at the list of like some places that closing down. A lot of it were in places like in Southern California where crime has been, kind of, a lot of businesses have been leaving southern parts of California. There's a shifting tax base in that area, so it makes sense. And especially this part right here, where we don't see a path to financial performance. So in other words, they're not making money. He's new, he came in there, he's like, look, we gotta shake things up. We gotta start making money. Because if we're not making money, no one's happy. And the workers, right, so like a lot of the baristas and everything like that, they probably won't understand this, because from their perspective, they're just thinking, okay, he's a so-and-so millionaire, whatever, and it's not fair because he's raking in all this money. True, but it's not that simple. If we have multiple different stores, right, that are not making as much money as they need to, we can't pay your salary. And then not only that, I think California just passed the new minimum wage, which is $20 an hour. If we have locations that are not making money, right, or not making as much money, not turning much of a profit, and then we just raise the minimum wage, in other words, we got to pay our workers more, even though we're not making as much as we should be making, if not lower, what do you think happens? We're operating at a loss. No one wants to operate a business at a loss. That's not productive. So they got closed down. I do think there's some other things that are at play here, and we're going to go over that in another video. But it's very interesting. Also, too, I find it hilarious that these are the same people, not saying the ones that we're talking just now, the customers, but I guarantee you that the people that are upset were probably the same people that protested because Starbucks had wanted them to wear like a black shirt with like pants, a uniform. They were so up in arms about it. Like, they were protesting.
No contract, no coffee.
Tonight, outrage brewing at nearly 75 Starbucks across the country. Baristas are walking out.
We are currently on an unfair labor practice strike and have walked out here today because of the newly implemented dress code that is now being enforced upon our stores illegally.
Monday marked the start of new rules on what baristas are allowed to wear under those famous green aprons. The company requiring workers to wear plain black T-shirts and khaki, black, or blue denim bottoms. Under the old dress code, workers were allowed to wear other dark colors and shirts with a pattern.
Have you ever tried this one?
Starbucks Workers United, the union representing workers at 570 of Starbucks' 10,000 company-owned U.S. stores, says the dress code should be subject to collective bargaining.
It's not just our right, but our duty to rebel.
They filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board over the company's alleged failure to bargain.
Finding out last minute that you need to go out and purchase a brand new dress code that you can't afford, it's completely out of touch. Most of us are paycheck to paycheck. We can't afford to go out and buy new shoes, new pants, and new shirts. We need a livable wage. Talks were going great, and now they're not. And Starbucks just continues to make changes that have nothing to do with our working conditions.
In a statement to NBC News, Starbucks said, quote, "It would be more productive if the union would put the same effort into coming back to the table that they're putting into protesting wearing black shirts to work."
Let's keep going.
I just heard this today, and I'm super disappointed. I've been coming here for over 10 years. It's basically our daily routine.
The Bay Area shops represent a small fraction of the roughly 400 Starbucks that are closing nationwide.
It's a big chain, so I guess the big chain is not doing as well with many of the small stores.
Workers telling us off camera that they were given no notice that they'd be losing their jobs. Starbucks says it will work to accommodate transfers for those employees. The company is also eliminating 900 non-retail corporate jobs. The decision comes as part of a $1 billion restructuring plan. Starbucks also laid off 1,100 workers back in March. Some customers say even before this announcement, they had already moved on.
We don't really go to Starbucks. I go to Pete's.
Now, the union that
That's another thing as well. You could tell that this CEO, he's really trying to tighten the belt. He's like, look, we're trying to get rid of all the waste, and we're trying to, if you're not needed and you're not essential, you got to go. It may be mean, but that's just business. That's just how it works. Well, he said the last part, a lot of people have not been going to Starbucks because, you know, they're just making their own coffee. Times are getting tough. A lot of people cannot afford the simple leisure that they would have afforded before. All right. So what happens is that a lot of things that get cut out whenever times get tough and money gets tight, leisure, and then going out to eat. I'm not sure we would categorize that, but sometimes we put in leisure, sometimes it can't be. A lot of people are gonna make the hard decision to just stay at home and make their own coffee. I watch a lot of Cable Hammer, right? And one thing he says is that, hey, look, make your own bean juice at home. So yeah, he's trying to make this company lean. He's trying to be like, you know what? We're not gonna be making much money over here. Y'all gotta go. As mean as it may be. So as we jump into this next video, the reason I had brought up that I've been paying attention to what's going on with Starbucks is that with investing, right, I've realized, and through some really good counsel, that if you want to invest in certain companies, you need to pay attention to not just how the companies are doing when you're like on your investing app or whatever. You need to pay attention to all facets of it. One of those facets being who runs it, the CEO.
If, in fact, this administration does put in place those more punishing tariffs, if they can't get to some of these trade deals, how does that affect your business in the longer term?
Yeah, look, I mean, we obviously need to be aware of where the tariff policy goes. For us, really the main product that we deal with on an import basis is green coffee, which frankly cannot be grown in the United States. Obviously, our team is in touch with the folks in DC to try and understand where the policy is going to move. The thing that's great about Starbucks is we're a global company, we're an iconic brand, we have the flexibility and scale to navigate wherever these policy changes go.
Do you, as the leader of that global company, have anxiety about what's happening back in Washington with the tariff uncertainty?
You know, I don't, because I'm genuinely excited about the opportunity for our company.
That's quite confident of you to say.
Yeah, well, look, I don't control that.
And Brian Nickel.
One thing I say about the tariffs, a lot of people keep thinking that the tariffs have had a direct effect on companies and whatnot. I watched like a lot of finance things, and then the person that's in charge of the Fed rate, I have his name on the screen because for the life of me I can't remember. I suck at names.
Changes to government policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. Higher tariffs have begun to push up prices in some categories of goods, but their overall effects on economic activity and inflation remain to be seen. A reasonable base case is that the effects on inflation will be relatively short-lived, a one-time shift in the price level. But it is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent, and that is a risk to be assessed and managed.
So when they say, you know, tariffs are affecting the coffee and everything like that, I've heard that as well. That's not true when it comes to you know, what's going on with the beans and everything like that, and what's going on with coffee. Brazil makes up around 40%, maybe 45% of like coffee beans. In other words, around the world, what Brazil contributes is around 40 to 45% of that. I could be wrong. I think it's 40, right? In Brazil, when it comes to like, you know, their coffee plantation, everything like that, yeah, a lot's been going on. You know, they have aging plantation. They've been going through like a drought recently. You know, the weather has not been favorable for them. And then apparently they've been hit with some diseases when it comes to their plants as well. So when people are saying, oh, the tariffs is what's affecting the coffee beans, no. Our biggest contributor of coffee beans, Brazil, has just been hit with a whole lot. I'm telling you, if you just look it up, you'll see it for yourself.
Controls the world's biggest coffee company. The new CEO of Starbucks, on the job for only less than a year and tasked with a turnaround, reimagining a company that so far has made less money this year than the year before. Its stock sinking before Nickel came on board, and now a climate of economic uncertainty. Other big brands like Chipotle and McDonald's seeing their slowest sales since the pandemic, and consumers worried about the price they pay for the things they want.
When it comes to prices, as you sit here today, can you commit that Starbucks will not raise prices this year?
Look, that was our commitment. For this fiscal year, we're not moving on prices. What I can't commit to is where the future goes. But what I definitely can commit to is we're going to give people a great experience so that what they get for what they pay, they feel like they got a great value.
Have you noticed in this current moment this drop-off in lower-income customers?
No. You know, actually what we've seen is pretty consistent behavior from all income cohorts, male, female. I think the thing that really resonates the most is getting the drink done accurately, on time, and then setting them up for an occasion that they want to experience the brand.
Why is it, do you think, that Starbucks has seen, you know, those 4 straight quarters of sales down? You're clearly not doing what you want to do from a sales perspective yet.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think, look, we veered away from, I think, owning the idea of the third place, the coffee house experience, making sure that the customer was front and center.
So now, to encourage people to linger longer, Starbucks has already done things like reintroduce ceramic mugs and comfier seats, cut about a third of its menu to focus more on its core of coffee, and it's put in place a new requirement: people buy something to sit in the store or use its bathrooms.
One of the things that you've said is that you feel like you're on the right path, but you want to move faster.
Correct.
So what is that timeline? At what point, what month, what year do you feel like you will be where you want to be?
Well, look, one of the things I'm really optimistic about is the green apron service model, which is really this idea of technology, the algorithm behind the scenes to sequence orders, and then staffing the stores, deploying the stores correctly, following the coffee house routines that we want to follow. We should have that across all our company-owned stores in the United States and Canada by the end of summer.
And while Starbucks just this week is rolling out a new AI helper behind the counter to help baristas get answers to their questions quickly, Nickel still believes the foundation of his company is its people.
The humanity of this business makes us unique. Now, that's not to say we're not going to use AI. We're not going to be forward-thinking on technology, forward-thinking on automation, but it can't be at the expense of having that humanity or that human connection between a barista and a customer.
How do you think you'll use AI down?
So before he answers that, this isn't a recent interview, but I just want to refer back to this because now you pretty much see where his direction that he was leading to when it comes to, you know, the Starbucks brand. You know what I'm saying? And he meant it. He's moving and he wants to move fast. And he's like, okay, let's trim the fat. These stores right here, these locations, not making us any money. We got to change that. We got to fix that. And he might just be doing that. Also, as well, I don't think we fully understand how much AI is going to shake up what's going on in the job market. Like, we don't know what comes after a certain point with AI. And a lot of these CEOs, a lot of these businesses are chomping at the bit to implement it and find a way to cut costs and not use as much people when it comes to their day-to-day operations. Like I said, I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying I'm a fan of it. These are just the realities of the situation. You know what I'm saying? You, the people, find ways to make yourself indispensable to where AI could come into your market and slight bump for you.
The road.
You know, look, I think it's great ways in forecasting, supply chain, actually to help us in our roasting techniques, help us with farming.
But none of that's really customer facing.
Yeah, no, what I just ran through is not customer facing, but what I will tell you is, like, in the app and in the digital experience, we're definitely experimenting with how we use AI, you know, to help you learn, you know, new ways to experience new drinks.
In just the last couple of days, Starbucks has rolled out also a protein latte. In our conversation, Nickel told me he's not ruling out some other new products down the road, like maybe those popular mushroom-infused coffee drinks. All of it, he says, as Starbucks could double the number of its stores, but Nickel gave no timeline on that just yet.
Ain't that funny? Yeah, double the number of the stores. Yeah, no. They're getting rid of about 500. So this is about 3 months ago. So yeah, he was I don't know what he told her, but that's not what he ended up doing. At this last part, right, we're going to go over how Starbucks baristas, they're not happy. They're pretty upset about that.
A wave of pickets across 35 cities. Union workers called for a fair contract, demanding better staffing, hours, pay, and workplace protections. The demonstration outside the Starbucks on Elmwood Avenue came as the company faces growing pressure over its alleged treatment of baristas.
Anybody can just go get another job, right? But we love working at Starbucks, and we know that we can make it better. And we have seen change by bargaining with Starbucks. We've gotten faster sick time approval, longer maternity leave for our partners, 18 weeks when before we had 6. So if we just got another job, these problems would just exist, and we know what needs to be done to make things better.
It is important to note employees are not officially on strike. We're told today's picket acted as a practice in case union bargaining does lead to that potential strike.
I don't think they're going to get what they want. And I'm not laughing. I'm just laughing at the situation. Yeah, because it's not fun for anyone to lose their job. And I know some people will be able to be moved to different locations. Hopefully they can, because I don't believe in laughing at anyone being unable to support themselves and protect whoever they got to protect. Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on it, I don't even go to Starbucks. For me, I'm a very cheap person. I don't go to Starbucks. I don't go to Target. I don't go to places that I feel like I'm going to be spending more money than what I'm going to get back in a product, right? Starbucks is one of those places. Yeah, they got the nice refreshers, but sometimes they're too sugary. I'm not about that. And they came down their prices? Sure, maybe. But nah, I'm cool. I'm cool for that. But besides that, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of shaking up going on. I'm interested to see where this goes. The CEO, the whole time he was speaking, right? I'm really decent at picking up on people and reading them and everything like that. He seems like he's no nonsense, and he's like, look, we're gonna turn this around, we're gonna make a profit. It does suck that some people are gonna lose their jobs, but this is capitalism. It is what it is. You just have to roll the punches, honestly. Well, you guys already know the drill. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment down below, tell me your thoughts. Do you think that this is right? This is the right move? Do you feel like closing down these stores is really gonna help Starbucks, I guess, launch themselves into better financial straits, or do you feel like this is a huge mistake and they might come to regret it? Let me know down in the comments below. And subscribe if you want to see more. Peace.